Well, thank you, Chamberlain. I have with me here Mr. Lulu, His Excellency, beg your pardon, Mr. Lulu Nguni, who is the South African High Commissioner to Nigeria. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much for having us.
Well, in recent times, we've been seeing this increased wave of attacks, xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Now, it would seem that Nigerians have, borne the brunt of this. It would seem it's a renewed wave, as it were. What precisely would you say has informed this renewed wave of attacks?
Well, what actually we have been hearing was that there was a concern around Rosettenville about people who were involved, say, in drug trafficking and prostitution of young girls. And the people had complained to the police, according to them, and the police were not acting. Seemingly it was because the people involved in this were actually involved also in corrupting the police and, of course, making them to be unable to make the necessary intervention. That's what we heard. Of course, there are quite a number of things also, like the presence of people who were not legally documented to be in the country. And, of course, when you also look at it, it's informed by issues of poverty, issues of poverty, and of course lack of proper development. And as you know, that is also affecting all of us in the African continent. But of course, as South Africa, we say no amount of frustration can be condoned in terms of people just deciding to attack other people, whether be they South African citizens or people from other African countries. We say people, if they have any challenges, they have to use the correct channels, talking to the police or talking to leaders, like political leaders, to make some kind of intervention.
So are you saying that this happened because of state failure? Because when people say that they reported, crime in their environment to the police, and the police, because it might have been compromised, did not react when it ought to have reacted, they took the law into their hands?
Well, those are the allegations that are coming from the people themselves, that they had reported the matter. And of course, it seems as if police could not react or act in time to contain the situation. And then out of frustration, then people say they had to do whatever they have done. And well, that is what they're saying. And of course, we say then.
Is that from the investigation of the South African government as well?
No. Our government is trying to get to the root of the matter. Is trying to confirm whether what the people are saying is true or not. And then, but all that we could do was to deploy the ministerial delegation, the Minister of the MEC of Community Safety, and of course our Minister of Home Affairs, to go and address the issues and of course to talk to the people. And it is because of their intervention that the Rosettenville then ended up being contained. And then what we said was that now there needs to be peaceful dialogue. Even if maybe, no matter how serious the problems are, there needs to be dialogue and the matters be resolved peacefully. And that the police need to always respond timelessly in order to contain, these challenges.
Well, we have a correspondent in South Africa, and she was able to, do a report and conduct our own findings in terms of what is going on while she was trying to report on the matter. Now, she says that some of the findings show that while this, however it was it started, when the violence started and it started burning shops and burning houses, there were reports that the police were in the crowd, but did absolutely nothing about it.
Okay, but I happened to be in South Africa when these things were happening, and I was watching on television, but I saw police actually intervening, and some of the people who were engaged in violence were being attacked by the police with rubber bullets, etc. That's what I saw. I never saw police just standing, not intervening. Well, they might have come in when things were already, out of control, but they did come in to intervene and quell the situation. And of course, the team that came in, also as delegated by our leaders, was able then to contain the situation. And I was monitoring also about what was happening in Pretoria West, that the police and community leaders were together in trying to make sure that the situation is normalized. Yes, it's just that when people act sometimes, they will not act when the police are there, but they will look into ways of doing whatever, because it's more of a criminal thing, and sometimes there are opportunist criminal elements that take advantage of genuine concerns of the people and then do whatever they can do. But as government, we are trying to follow up on this and of course to arrest some of the people involved. Some have already been arrested, and we're talking to the victims and of course community members so that they can tell us exactly what happened and who were the people involved, so that arrests can be effected.
Well, this is not the first time it has happened. As we rightly pointed out, this is a renewed wave of violence. First of all, why do you think that South Africans are particularly prone to xenophobia?
Well, we can look into either history or whatever, but South Africans are generally not xenophobic. As you can see, that there are a lot of people, both from Nigeria and other countries, who are going to South Africa. But there are those pockets, especially in poor areas, when then you come to experience such happenings. But we are looking at issues of development as being, you can also look at what is happening in the country. And when you go down to check what actually is happening, you'll find that it is issues of poverty and underdevelopment, which needs to be addressed. And that's why we are closing rank with Nigeria to address issues of poverty and underdevelopment in the two countries. Even if you were to try and contain the violence that is in the northeast here, you cannot only use hard power to address those challenges. You need to see as to how you erode that reservoir that is used by opportunist forces to bring about violence.
Would you say that those measures are working? Because if over and over again, I don't know, it looks like there's a cycle to it, we continue to see these attacks. Would you say that the measures that have been put in place from, lessons learned from previous attacks are working?
I should think that we need not, be like reacting. We need to come up with a continuous process of making sure that we sustain the momentum, rather than responding and then when things come down, then we relax, waiting for them to erupt again. And of course, that is why I say that Nigeria and South Africa, whilst of course we're concerned about the developments, we need not look at these irritancies and of course allow them to create a wedge between us.
So you think
and of course end up shifting our focus on addressing the root cause of the problem, because the root cause of the problem are based on these issues of lack of jobs, poverty, hunger, you know, all those things. Of course, education as well. But we need really to continuously work together, walk together on this route of trying to stabilize our continent. You know, and that is how. And immediately we start allowing ourselves to be pulled apart. We are actually now moving away from what we are focusing on trying to make sure that our peoples come to live a better quality life. You understand? Because also for people to go to South Africa, and of course, it shows that also wherever they are coming from, there are issues of underdevelopment and poverty. And they are trying to look for places where they can make a better life for themselves and their people at home. So we need really to address this issue of poverty and underdevelopment. And of course...
The president, sorry to interrupt you there, but the president's special advisor on diaspora matters, Mrs. Dabiri-Erewa, was in your office, I think, about a week or two ago.
Yes.
And then you had some discussions. Only recently, she's also, you know, had to shout to the African Union. What precisely was the outcome of that meeting? Were there any tangibles, any deliverables that the South African government is putting on the table, especially in the wake of this renewed attacks, which has the potential of affecting the relationship that Nigeria has with South Africa?
Yeah, well, the meeting actually took place around the issue of a person, a Nigerian that died in Cape Town. And then there was 2 stories. The police were saying that this person was a drug dealer, and of course they were trying to arrest him for drugs. And then this person swallowed the drugs, which ultimately led to him dying. And of course, but the Union of Nigerian Citizens in South Africa was saying, no, this person was handcuffed. And then the police squeezed him around his neck, and of course, the blood gushed out, and then that resulted in him dying. So what actually happened, then the Independent Police Directorate, Investigative Directorate, was asked to investigate and check as to what actually happened and the role of the police, because they are monitoring the activities of the police. And of course, and then we requested that a post-mortem be conducted, and then checks be made to see as to what actually led to this person dying. That is what we said was presently happening, and we were waiting for the outcome of that. So, and then we have been following even as far as yesterday as to what was happening, and they said the process is still ongoing, and once they have reached an advanced stage, they will come back to us. But we also...
Your Excellency, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you.
Can I just
we have to take a break now. It's important that we take this break. We'll return to that discussion when we come back from this break. Do join us again.